Hi, I am Sam Yogi. Today is September 18th, 2025. Welcome back to the Krishnamurti Podcast. This is episode 54. In this episode, first let us look at a few points, and with these as the backdrop, we shall wrap up Krishnamurti's fourth talk at Ommen, the Netherlands, delivered on July 30, 1933. So these points are as follows. Most of us realize consciously or unconsciously that there is an emptiness and insufficiency in our lives, and we try to run away from that insufficiency. A, through sensation. B, through forgetfulness. Or C, through work. Where there is an emptiness, there is always a craving and a grasping. We simply try to get away from it through experience, and this attempt to escape, this effort to fill it with experience, with mere knowledge, only creates greater insufficiency. Next point. Where there is wanting, there can never be discernment. Wanting prevents discernment. Where there is want, there is emptiness. Next point. Choice, which is based on want, can never bring about discernment. Choice is the conflict of the opposites. Choice creates opposites. As long as the mind is caught in this system of opposites, there can never be discernment. Next point. Because there is insufficiency in yourself, you try to fill that emptiness through sensation of various kinds, from the gross forms to the most subtle. Where there is want, action must be incomplete. That incompleteness further increases the emptiness of mind and heart. So, there is a lot of stress in these four talks. We are on the fourth talk in Ommen, the Netherlands. And even before this talk started, Krishnamurti was in Italy and gave 4 talks in Alpino and 2 talks in Stresa, where he kept on talking about engaging both mind and heart and making the action complete by getting rid of what he calls barriers or hindrances to completeness of action, to fulfillment, to fullness of action. Now let's continue with these points. In awareness is discernment, in which there is no choice. Choice is a ceaseless struggle, a constant conflict. Next point. It is in the fulfillment of a true thought that there can ever be completeness. Next point. People struggle to force their mental and emotional lives to fit into the groups of a set system. Having conformed, they try to force others to conform to the same system. This they call helping the world, serving mankind, etc. Next point. Once you perceive the barriers that surround you, once you break through these patterns and systems, your action becomes spontaneous. In other words, when you free your mind and heart from the many barriers that shut them in, then there is the flow of reality. Next point. You are conscious of life only when there is conflict, pain, suffering, out of which alone comes the true understanding of life. Next point. You have many twisted ideas and perverted judgments of which you are wholly unconscious. They reveal themselves only through conflict and suffering if you do not escape from them. Again, because the last two episodes we have titled the same: wanting, which is craving, desiring, wanting, perverse judgment was the title of the last two episodes. Here he is saying, or we are saying, as one of the 20 odd points that we shall discuss or talk about. He is saying wanting prevents judgment in so many words. He says people struggle to force their mental and emotional lives to fit into the groups of a set system. Having conformed, they try to force others to conform to the same system. This they call helping the world, serving mankind, etc. In other words, they limit you with their set ideas, systems, prejudices, conditioning, or what have you. Next point. Once you perceive the barriers that surround you, once you break through these patterns and systems, your action becomes spontaneous. Next point. In other words, when you free your mind and heart from the many barriers that shut them in, then there is the flow of reality. Next point. You are conscious of life only when there is conflict, pain, suffering, out of which alone comes the true understanding of life. Next point. You have many twisted ideas and perverted judgments of which you are wholly unconscious. They reveal themselves only through conflict and suffering if you do not escape from them. Next point. When you become mentally and emotionally aware of these barriers without reshaping yourself after another pattern, the freedom from these limitations is a spontaneous and an intelligent progress without self-imposed discipline and control. Next point. To Krishnamurti, discipline is merely destructive. It is a narrowing down of heart and mind. Next point. One of the most difficult tasks is to keep the mind and heart from conformity and accumulative knowledge, which becomes merely a safeguard against the ever-changing present or against the future. Next point. Between these protective safeguards and the movement of life, there must inevitably arise conflict. Next point. To escape from this conflict, the mind creates further security and illusion, getting more and more entangled and limited. Next point. To free yourself from the pursuit of security and power, you mentally create its opposite. But in doing this, you are merely creating another set of securities, only calling it by different names: love, humility, service, following truth. This is an important point because in a few episodes you might have glimpsed me saying there is nothing like security, either physical or psychological. Sure, you have physical security and you should go after physical security like having a home. Otherwise, you will be homeless. Now, when I walk on the streets in India, there are stray dogs, and sometimes the dogs come up close, and my calves are bare because I am wearing shorts, and I am always afraid. If a dog comes very close, will it bite? Now, as Krishnamurti says in a talk, if a dog will bite, it will bite. If you are going to be shot, you will be shot. So, these are his words, not mine. So there is no physical security exactly. If you walk on the streets in India, the pedestrian has always the right of the way because the same road carries the pedestrian, the dog, the cow, the bicycle, the motorcycle, the scooter, the two-wheeler, the three-wheeler, and the four-wheeler, which is the car. And nowadays in India, the cars have advanced. They are soundless, and if they come up very close to you and go past you, you will not even know. They are that soundless, and the ambient noise is noisy and high. So there is nothing like physical security. And about psychological security, Krishnamurti says there is also not that security, but you should go after it. What happens is, if you understand that security is a hindrance, if you are convinced based on his talks and these podcasts, and to free yourself from the pursuit of security and power, you mentally create its opposite. Then, by doing this, you are merely creating another set of securities, which is not physical security. You may develop an aversion for a house and roam amongst the homeless and call it service, love, humility, but you have created another set of securities with which you will be bound. Next point. If you find that you really want security, then go into it profoundly with your whole being, completely. Then you will understand that there is no such thing as security. Next point. By being frank, this came up in the episode on frankness vis-a-vis sincerity. And Krishnamurti, as per Krishnamurti, frankness leads to spontaneity and not sincerity. So you will have to revisit these prior episodes to understand this important point, that it is frankness that one needs to understand oneself and not sincerity. So this last and final point, by being frank, you can find out your own limitations, your own complicated illusions. It is only when the mind has disentangled itself from illusion that there is the ecstasy of enduring life. Now let us look at the fourth talk of Krishnamurti in Ommen, which is started by saying, you know, life is a tremendous mystery, and most of us create a false mystery, an illusion, and try to penetrate that illusion, hoping that it will be real. We prefer the mystery of an illusion to the mystery of reality, and life is a mystery which cannot be understood if mind and heart are caught up in an illusion. So all illusion must cease before one can penetrate that innermost sanctuary that one calls life. I am trying to show the manner it can be penetrated, not the way, because I do not believe there is such a thing as a way. There is no path to truth. It is an uncharted land. It is an uncharted land, and you must come to it entirely naked, unprepared. You cannot have it charted, laid down. You must come to it wholly, unprepared, free, naked. Then you will understand it. To me, there is a living ecstasy which may be called God, reality. That is a timeless becoming. It is not an end which is to be gained, achieved, or conquered. It is a thing that is continually moving, changing, alive. It cannot be described. To discover it, to understand it, to penetrate it, the mind must be free of this idea of achievement. You cannot think of truth in terms of gains or in terms of success or conquering. Please, this is not rhetorical. Don't listen to me with a rhetorical mind. And as most minds are crippled by this idea of conquering, achieving, catching hold, our whole system of thought is based on it. To understand that living reality, the mind must be wholly free of this idea of achievement, because achievement involves time. That which you are going to gain implies a future and a present and a past. A mind and a heart that is caught up in time cannot understand that endless becoming. So achievement, gain, conquering, and success, truth as a reward for righteous action, implies an effort, indicates that you must make a tremendous volition, develop a will, character, in order to attain, in order to be rewarded for your effort. And where there is an effort, there is a duality. The thing which you conquer and the conqueror. Where there is duality, there is an opposite, an antithesis, as good and bad, pain and pleasure, reward and punishment. As long as there is duality in the mind, there is effort to escape from one to the other. This effort gives birth to the consciousness of the I, self-consciousness, and hence there arises suffering, pain, and the idea of time broken up into past, present, and future. Where mind is continually seeking advancement, achievement, success, conquering a virtue or an end, there is the implication of duality, which creates a consciousness of the I. From that arises suffering. So to overcome the suffering, we resort to forgetfulness, because most people are caught up in suffering. With that suffering, with that continual uncertainty and lack of comprehension, which created a void, an emptiness, we are all the time trying to forget it, to run away from it, or to conquer it through self-discipline. This forgetfulness, this running away or disciplining oneself further increases that duality, and then there is that strain of conquest and the battle takes place. This is a process each one goes through consciously or unconsciously. The result is that you have set up an end to be conquered, which you consider to be true, an ideal of perfection, of God, of truth, of life, and you are always training to discipline yourself, to conquer it, to train your mind, to dwell constantly on that idea and to function in it. So you create in your mind a duality, an observer, a controller, and the thing which is observed and controlled. So you develop a higher mind and a lower mind, a higher emotion and a lower emotion, because your mind is suffocated, gripped in this duality. Hence, naturally there is continual disharmony which creates conflict, and you are caught up in this circle. That is what is happening, that is obvious, that is what is taking place in each one. This establishment of an idea which we call truth or God, which is impossible because you cannot understand it, you cannot picture it as a whole until you are completely free of it. You can have an occasional glimpse, but if you cling to that glimpse, you are destroying the full comprehension of the present. So we begin to establish what we consider truth, which is born out of prejudice, because we always choose that which we consider to be truth out of like and dislike. What gives you satisfaction mentally, emotionally, or any other way. So you distinguish between right and wrong action. The right action being dominated by the higher mind, the mind that is continually observing, conquering, guiding, and hence creates in itself a duality, the I and the non-I. This is not another philosophy. It is what happens with each of us. That is how the process of self-discipline takes place. Now, to me, this is entirely erroneous. The whole process of approach is entirely wrong because it indicates a ceaseless effort, and as I say, where there is effort, there is no understanding of truth. Truth does not come through effort. It must be born naturally when you remove all hindrances, when you are free from all barriers created by effort. What creates this duality in us? Action. Action born out of the desire for want, gain. Action born out of fear, punishment, that creates a duality. And as I say, it is only action which itself which is life, which is eternal. So when the mind is caught up by the bondage of a reward or a punishment or a motive or the search after truth, action has lost its significance. And instead of action, there is always the sense of achievement as opposed to action. To me, action is infinite, everlasting, enduring, whereas achievement has a finality. So it is only when the mind and heart are free from all hindrances that life can flow easily, spontaneously, naturally, frankly. It is like a twisted ankle which causes pain, and when the ankle is put back in its place, life flows naturally again through it. So in the same way, when you free the mind from all hindrances, from all barriers, then life flows through it easily. This is eternal action, but these hindrances are not to be conquered. You cannot say, I am going to conquer my hindrance. I am going to overcome it, translate it, transmute it. If you are thinking in terms of gain, then you are looking to sensation, and action based on sensation does not give this true discernment. What gives true discernment is action without choice. If action is based on achievement, then that action has no significance. That action is of time and therefore creates conflict. Whereas if there is action not from a reward, not from a punishment, not from fear, then action itself is inherently true and therefore enduring. What destroys action in its true significance is want, is this continual craving which creates loneliness. Where there is want, one is conscious of loneliness, emptiness, a void, and immediately one wants something to fill that. So one goes on accumulating more and more, and the emptiness is still there. The cause of loneliness is want, because wherever there is want, there is no discernment. Want blinds and cripples the mind and heart from true understanding. You can only want, crave, when the mind is burdened with false values. The moment you understand a thing wholly, completely in all its significance, there is no more want. You are part of it, whether the understanding of an experience or a thing or an idea or an emotion. So wanting perverts judgment, true discernment, which is the cause of loneliness. Now, I am going to explain something which I hope will make what I am saying clear. Most people agree mentally. Mentally, you have followed. If you have followed what I have said the last 3 days, you will have followed that where there is want, there is lack of discernment. You will agree intellectually, but emotionally you are still wanting, and hence there is conflict. The mind imposes itself on the emotions that want, and hence the continual battle, the strain of what you call spirituality, the trying to force together the two elements that are warring with each other. So mind is convinced of the futility of comfort or of want. Intellectually it is assured of its falseness. Sensationally it still wants it. It is seeking sedulously and is unconsciously absorbed with it. Then what do? There it is. There are two elements in you. One that says no comfort, no security, no want, that intellectually, mentally sees the fallacy of it, and emotionally all the time holding, as is the case with love. What do you call love? As a husband, a wife, a lover, which is a possessive thing, but intellectually you despise what you are doing. What do? What does one do? One either gives it up as a hopeless thing or else tries to dominate. Mentally you suppress the other, continually suffocate the search for comfort, the search for security, the search for want. So out of that there is discipline. There is the controller and the controlled, and the desire to accumulate virtues to strengthen its own assurance, and there is this continual domination going on. Now if you emotionally pursue the want, if you emotionally think security is essential for your well-being, pursue it. Don't try to dominate it. Investigate it. Try to plumb its full depths. And in the discovery, in the penetration of want, you will discover the futility of want. I am afraid it is simple and you will miss it. If you want a thing, approach it wholly, both with your mind and heart. Look at it intellectually and emotionally. If you want comfort with all its implication of power, domination, Take it with both your whole heart and mind. Don't separate your mind from want. Now you are intellectually developing, and therefore your mind's response is always intellectual, which is the curse of modern education. Whereas when you approach it wholly both with your mind and your heart, then you will find the true significance of want. That is, when you are fully aware of this hindrance. Want is a hindrance from my point of view. Probably it is not from yours. But to understand whatever it is you want, approach it wholly as a harmonious being, not a conflicting being. Whether it is jewels, cars, your wife, husband, even God, truth, then you will approach it as a human being, not as a split individual. Hence, you never try to conquer any hindrance. You penetrate it, understand it, gather its significance, and then you are free from that particular hindrance without effort. Effort only exists when there is contradiction in yourself between want and non-want. An observer who is observing the thing which wants, desires, craves. That is why to me all discipline which you have imposed on yourself, all meditation, what you call meditation, appears so destructive. Otherwise, you will never understand the joy of eternity, the ecstasy of life in all its spontaneity, with all its natural feelings and expressions. If you hate, approach it not with a mind that says, I must not hate, and at the same time, with a feeling of hate, approach it with all your being, and you will see how quickly it disappears, like the morning mist which is dispelled by the sun. It is because we do not approach everything so inherently with our whole being that we pursue virtues, develop character, will, discipline, and search out reward. Please experiment with it. I am afraid you don't experiment because you have already made up your mind that discipline is necessary, control is essential, reward is worthwhile. Otherwise, if there is no achievement, what is life? All these cliches are so instilled, drilled into your mind that you don't experiment with what I am saying, or you become sentimental. Experiment for a day and you will understand that you can live harmoniously, completely, with action that is infinite, not in terms of achievement. So the talk ends here, and next few minutes in this talk are spent in answering questions. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. And it will take at least 5 episodes to go through each Q&A, and we'll start this with the next episode. Until then, you have a wonderful day. Thank you.